Hi, I'm Philip Kirk, your third grandfather in Nashville. This video is an urgent plea to our Governor Bill Lee, who, I am advised, is going to obligate the citizens of the state of Tennessee to participate in a government program called contact tracing, which is designed to obtain health information from the state citizens and residents. Now, where did I get this information? It came from a press release by the Tennessee Economic Recovery Group, which is, according to a state website, a joint effort between state departments, members of the legislature, and leaders from the private sector to build guidance to safely reboot Tennessee's economy. I want to show it to you. And I don't know if you can see that, but I'm going to read the title of it. Economic Recovery Group issues guidelines for recreation, offices, lodging, and more as businesses reopen. And I'm just going to read one short sentence from this. As our testing capacity and contact tracing ability continues to improve, it's time to get Tennesseans back to work safely and successfully. The term contact tracing raises an obvious red flag, and it's what causes me, and I'm sure many other Tennesseans, great concern as this illness situation progresses. In that regard, I'm going to play you a clip from the World Health Organization. Before you watch that, I want to make sure you understand my feelings about Governor Lee, who was elected governor of Tennessee in 2018. In my opinion, he is a great guy. He is a smart and extremely successful man who has been operating a very successful, good construction-related business for many years. I believe he's an honest person, and above all, he's just an overall nice guy. But I'm afraid our governor has stumbled, and he now has one foot in our state swamp. So before I go any further, let me play you this clip from the World Health Organization concerning contact tracing.
Ability not only to isolate cases, but to rapidly detect illness in the contacts and remove those contacts should they become sick was a central part of that. And as he said, they're using apps now to do that. They're testing apps, but they didn't do it with apps in Singapore. They did that with community workers, with public health workers, visiting the houses, checking on people, checking their health status every day and saying, how are you? Have you got a fever? Have you got a cough? And if a contact has developed a cough or a fever, they were taken immediately for testing. So yes, we need the information technology tools. They help. They are not the solution. Right now, we don't have an alternative to what we would have considered in the old days boot leather epidemiology. Public health practitioners, doctors, nurses, community workers working with communities to detect cases at community level. And the most likely person to become a case is someone who's been a significant contact of another case. And at the moment, in most parts of the world, due to lockdown, most of the transmission that's actually happening in many countries now is happening in the household, at family level. In some senses, transmission has been taken off the streets and pushed back into family units. Now we need to go and look in families to find those people who may be sick and remove them and isolate them in a safe and dignified manner.
Before I get into the details of contact tracing, I need to explain that I live in Nashville, and I find it unbelievable that although the city of Nashville has had a booming tourist business, a booming convention business, luxury and other hotels being built across the entire city, and construction cranes swinging in the air all over the city, we find ourselves in the middle of a financial crisis. We are so far in the hole that our mayor is pushing through a 32% property tax increase. 32% property tax increases are almost unheard of. While many people who have mortgages don't seem to feel their property tax payments because they are included in their monthly mortgage payment, what is basically a 1/3 property tax increase will definitely increase mortgage payments in a significant amount. And if you think that because you rent that you will not be affected by this, you are not living in reality. Your landlord's property taxes are going to increase dramatically, and unless your landlord is willing to accept a significantly less amount of rent than he or she has been receiving, your monthly rental payments are going to go up, way up. And commercial property landlords are going to be slaughtered in this regard as well. And the current business lockdown has only exacerbated our financial condition. Now back to the contact tracing. The theory behind this procedure is that the government is going to track down and zero in on any persons that it believes may be sick, whether it is from a virus or any other illness, because until testing occurs, you do not know. Now, how will the government find the sick people? I suggest that it will rely on a population of snitches, in addition to the intrusive door-to-door Gestapo-type techniques in which the government will go to every home and attempt to question and examine every person by either questioning them and or taking their temperature, maybe an even more intrusive test. I suggest that if I had asked you, Governor, 15 years ago, if this could ever happen in Tennessee, you would have said, no way, but it's here. Can you picture a band of government employees or contact agents going door to door down your street with computer laptops and interrogating not only you but also your children and other family members? Now I wonder, how will these government agents get beyond those gates in gated communities? How much will it cost to have hundreds of these additional people on a payroll? Now, as intrusive and irritating as that seems to be, that's not the worst of it. The next step may be for the government to ask you to surrender your cell phone and your contact list. And that list will be downloaded and stored by the government, and then the names and telephone numbers will be used to contact those people to ask them if, in fact, you have been in contact with them. Next, the government could possibly ask you what grocery stores or home improvement stores you visited, and then obtain those security videos and find out who you came in close contact with, and then contact all those people. I know that sounds bizarre, but also being locked down in your home and the shutting down of your business is also bizarre. It sounded bizarre just a year ago. Also, why can't the government go to medical doctors' offices, clinics, and hospitals and ask to see all the records of persons who have presented with an abnormal temperature, and then use those records to contact you? Again, seems bizarre, but all this did a year ago. The government, in order to make this whole process meaningful, must attempt to isolate the sick person and take him away from your home and place him in an isolation scenario until they can determine whether or not you truly are sick and have the kind of illness that the government is trying to target. In trying to sell this procedure to you, the government will use its typical safety-oriented description of this process using words such as safety, good health, virus eradication, dignity, and any other terms the marketing experts suggest will make us citizens more compliant. Let's say you and your wife have two children, 12 and 14, and you come from work in the evening. Your children are there, but your wife isn't there. You question your children as to where their mother is, and they tell you that the government came and took her. And they hand you a piece of paper that the government contact tracer gave them, sort of like a pawn ticket, telling you where your wife has been taken and further instructing you not to attempt to call or contact her until she has completed her 14-day isolation, mandated by the government. Of course, I know that, again, sounds totally bizarre, but how else is it going to work? I suggest to the governor that the citizens of Tennessee have been very patient, going above and beyond the call of duty and complying with all the BS requirements of our state and local governments, as we good citizens are prone to do. But given all the conflicting, contrary public information about the source of this so-called virus, the molecular structure of it, the wild range of seemingly phony test results, and the outrageous dictates of the government to the medical community as to classifying deaths as being from CV-19, I suggest that the citizens of the state of Tennessee have had enough. And why do I say phony test results? Now, my doctorate degree is not in medicine or biology, so I'm certainly not claiming to understand a whole lot about this illness situation. But there is a lot of information available that even the layman can use to draw certain conclusions. However, as they say, the devil is in the details. Where do we get these numbers that we are being told about? There are several sources. One is through what's known as PCR testing. PCR means polymerase chain reaction. And the available information seems to indicate that it has an accuracy rate as low as 70% and up to 95%. It's a very complicated test with a great many steps. And the timing of the test in relation to the time the sample to be tested is obtained can greatly influence the outcome. Second, when an NGO such as the Center for Disease Control instructs physicians to assume or presume that anyone that has any type of certain symptoms should be deemed a CV-19 death is so absurd that it should cause everyone to blush with embarrassment. Add that to the fact that hospitals are being paid extra for diagnosis of CV-19, and an even greater amount to treat it with a certain procedure, the ventilator, then it makes a mockery of the medical community. It is per se biased and makes all the statistics irrelevant. Add to all this is that the Washington Post is reporting that Dr. Deborah Birx, B-I-R-X, has indicated that the CDC numbers cannot be trusted and could be off as much as 25%, or 1 out of every 4. This period of illness we're living through will be discussed for many years, but I submit that the truth can never be known. Why? Because the statistics are all suspect, and much of the evidence has either been burned up or buried underground. It's as simple as that. All that being said, it is time for the citizens to stand up and tell you, our great governor, we need to be in charge of our own lives. I believe the responsible citizens of the state of Tennessee only want the government to relay the information that it has and let the responsible citizens make their own decision as to how to govern their lives. In other words, get out of the way. If the citizen believes he is in danger, then he or she can isolate in their home. And those that do not buy into the fear tactics will go about their business and assume personal responsibility for themselves. As you know, Governor, Tennessee is a volunteer state, but we're not volunteering to become wards of the state. And I don't care if the federal government tries to bribe us with federal funds or other handouts to get us to comply like the sheep we can sometimes be. You need to stop this contact tracing that the federal government or whatever power is influencing you to bring about, and tell them no thanks. We, the citizens of Tennessee, will make our own rules. And we, the responsible citizens of Tennessee, will look out for ourselves and be responsible for ourselves and not become prisoners of the state and local governments. It is not the role of the government to be the protector of all the ills that befall humanity, and this slippery slope that our governor has stepped onto can only lead to disaster. It is naive to believe that there are no hidden profit motives by certain persons or organizations who are promoting what you are asking the citizens to endure. But those of us who value our freedom and personal responsibility ask you not to fall for their tactics and strategy. Governor, do you envision citizens of the state of Tennessee wearing masks every year? Do you envision us staying 6 feet apart for the rest of our lives as we go about our daily routines? Do you envision shutting down businesses every year at flu season? If so, I don't think you have an adequate grasp of what a true and responsible citizen of Tennessee is willing to endure. Now, hearing all this, do you think this is fiction? Do you think I'm exaggerating? Do you think all this will never come about? If so, let me show you something. This is H.R. 6666, and I'm not making that up. This is the bill that's before Congress. I'm going to read you just 3 short little parts of this. This was introduced in the House 5/1/2020. H.R. 6666. To authorize the Secretary of Health and Human Services to award grants to eligible entities to conduct diagnostic testing for COVID-19 and related activities such as contact tracing through mobile health units and as necessary at individuals' residences and for other purposes. Short title. This act may be referred to as the COVID-19 Testing, Reaching, and Contacting Everyone Trace Act. Now, are they serious about this? Here's the funding. To carry out this section, there are authorized to be appropriated $100 billion for fiscal year 2020 and such sums as may be necessary for each of fiscal year 2021 and any subsequent fiscal year during which the emergency period continues. Remember, flu comes every year. Also, President Trump's economic advisor, Ken Hassett, has stated, quote, "There is no downside implementing a national coronavirus tracing system," close quote. I know that Governor Lee takes his job very seriously and he feels responsible for the citizens of Tennessee. But he needs to know that part of that responsibility is keeping Tennessee citizens free. It also entails letting responsible citizens make their own decisions. Yes, people die in automobile accidents every day. And yes, they will die of the flu and pneumonia every day during certain periods of the year. And I do not doubt that this weighs heavily upon him. But a true leader prioritizes freedom above all other principles. And so you must not let your personal feelings of responsibility tread upon our freedoms and lifestyles. Governor, let me remind you of an often quoted phrase from Benjamin Franklin. Those who give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. In summation, I ask you to step back and reflect upon this decision you are making concerning contact tracing and to keep Tennessee, the volunteer state, free of tyranny and oppression from the powerful forces that seek to imprison us. Thank you very much, Governor Lee.